Hi, Danville. Alan Chills here, Chief of Police, and we are 10-8 and in service to all of you, which means we're here to safeguard the lives, rights, and property of everyone we serve. And we do that in an effort to make people's lives better. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are in service. This is live, and we are on both Facebook and YouTube. So if you can help us out a little bit, throw a little like and a comment, maybe forward this or post it on your page, and let's see if we can get as many people watching as we can. We've got a lot we're going to pack into the show. We had a couple of good user questions today that I'm going to try to kind of bundle into the show because I think they're relevant to what's going on today. And so we're going to have a lot to cover. So we're going to talk about crime, which we had almost no crime as far as part one crime, almost no crime in town. And we're going to go over some ways that you can engage with all of us in person. And then we have some questions about traffic safety. We're in our 5th week of emergency prep. So if you have missed the first 4 weeks, I would encourage you to go back there. We cover ways that you can stay connected with us. And that covers if there is an emergency, how can you get a hold of us via a phone and how we're going to push information out to all of you. And we cover how to prepare your home and your family. And today we're going to cover how to make sure that you are well prepped with a go kit, and we're going to cover some checklists. And if you're anything like me, and I come from the military background here, being in the Air Force, we run everything on a checklist. And I'm going to encourage that you go to the show notes at the end of the show and print out those checklists, as well as our Wildfire emergency guide. Our final thought today will be about speeding, so I'd encourage you to stick around for that. Okay, so how can you engage? We're gonna have a couple of opportunities that are coming up Friday. We're gonna man a booth on Bike to Work Day. We're gonna be over at the Iron Horse Trail at Lunardi's Friday. That's 2 days from now, Friday, May 20th, and we're gonna be there during the morning commute. So if you'd like to come out and say hi, get some free swag, we're gonna be out there, and you can join us there. If you really want to join us and be in the spirit, maybe ride a bike, right? And we have another one at Safeway later on that day. We're going to be doing a Coffee with the Cops event. Those are the ones that we do 2 to 3 times a month. And we do them all over town. This one's going to be way out east. It's going to be from 10 a.m. to noon. And we do have a special focus. And we're going to say thank you to Safeway for hosting. But we have a very special focus, and that's going to be on raising money for the law enforcement torch run in support of the Special Olympics. So all money donated will go to the Special Olympics. So we'd like you to come out, say hi, and find ways to donate and help out the friends in our community that are our Special Olympics athletes. It helps them compete in the games as well as give them health screenings and such. So very worthwhile event. So we'd encourage you to do that. If you want an opportunity for you to make Danville better, we've got a great opportunity. We've talked about it before. We've got this Danville downtown master plan going. A lot of people contributed to that. We've got another one, and this has to do with roadway safety. We've got a local roadway safety plan. This is an opportunity for you to jump in and contribute. There is a link in the description. So if you just click on that link, you can actually drop a pin, or you can actually put a little square in the area that you have concerns in, and then it gives you a box where you can kind of type in what your concerns are. And if you watched the show a couple weeks ago, I actually went through on exactly how to do that. As an example, it was how to, I put in an area at Hearts and Prospect, that kind of hot corner where it's controlled 2 ways by stop signs. So Prospect Crossing has stop signs, but Hearts is an uncontrolled direction. And I just put the volume of vehicle traffic and pedestrian traffic, make it a hazard. That puts it on the map, so to speak. And that way our transportation engineers can look at it, and the consulting team can look at it and work towards solving those problems. Again, this is a live show. Before we go on, I just want to let you know, if you have a question, go ahead and throw it in the chat, and we'll attempt to answer it live during the show. Because of the way the setup is, I'm monitoring the Facebook chat. I do not monitor the chat in YouTube in real time. All right, so if you have a question, go ahead and throw it in the chat. Now let's look at the crime or lack of crime this week. I think Danville as a community, you're knocking it out of the park. You're doing a great job. As always, communitycrimemap.com is where you can find crime or any of our calls for service, except for some restricted calls, our sexual assaults and family violence. Go there and you can actually set up alerts so that the alerts will let you know when calls for service have been located in the area that you designate, and you will get an email right to your inbox. This is the lightest I've ever seen this page. And we almost made it the whole week. If you look, this is for May 9 through 15. May 9 through 15. And on the 15th, we had a stolen vehicle on St. Norbert Drive that was recovered later the same day on Silver Cloud Place. And it was recovered so quick because a very observant neighbor, and this is why we say the police, we only can do so much. I am not an expert in your neighborhood. And this is where we had an expert in this neighborhood that came home later at night, saw that there was a suspicious vehicle in his court, and said, I've never seen that car here before. That looks suspicious to me. Can you come check it out? The officers came and checked it out and discovered that it was a car that had been stolen earlier that day. So kudos to our victim for reporting it quickly. Kudos to the neighbor for letting us know that it was there. To let you know, what we do when we recover those vehicles is we'll actually go through and we'll process them for DNA. So we'll do some swabs to determine if we can get DNA evidence on them, and we'll send them right to the lab and process them. We do get and build cases based on those returns. So we do have luck. So proper reporting on your end and being an observant good neighbor really does help us out in the long run. All right, let's look at our accidents. Again, you've heard this over and over again. Most of our accidents, anywhere from about 30 to 40%, occur in our downtown area. And then the second most common area is going to be on our Camino Tass corridor. So if you look, right in the middle of our downtown, we had one injury collision and one non-injury collision. And then out at Camino Tass and, Cantata Circle and Sabina Court, we had an injury collision as well. So 3 total collisions for the week. That is not bad. That's actually lower than our average. So as a community, again, not only did you do great with the crime, you did fantastic with the collisions. So good job. All right, I'm going to check the chat and see if we have any questions. And Sue, I just saw that you're in the chat here with a good evening. I don't know if you noticed, but you were pretty close to where we recovered that stolen car. You might have walked by that area or seen us that night on the 15th. All right, seeing nothing in the chat, let's move on. So we are in our 5th week, and I wanted to cover a go bag, and I was going to leave it right there, but I had a great question that I will cover as soon as we cover what's in a go bag. So a go bag, don't think of a go bag as just one bag. We recommend that you have one bag per person in the house. And then we also recommend that, if you're here at your work, that you have another one at your work. The reason is if it is a hazard or an event that requires you to shelter in place at your work, you might need some things there, right? And so we recommend that you keep something either in your car or at your work and certainly in your home. And so when we're talking about a go bag, we're not talking about like one bag in one location that is going to be the Mary Poppins bag where you can pull out the cane and the umbrella and all that stuff. There is no Mary Poppins bag with one thing that's got all these things in it. So you're going to have to pack smart and pack appropriately. But here's what we recommend. Moist towelettes, garbage bags, hand sanitizers. Cell phones are great. Usually we have those on our person, so don't necessarily stick them in the go bag. But if you have a power pack that maybe you use when you go on hikes or things like that, a good place to store that when not in use is in your go bag. Medicine, again, you're not going to keep all of your medicine in your go bag, but you should keep enough of the medicine that you need. And that includes even over-the-counter like Tylenol, something for pain, or Motrin, as well as the life-saving medicine that you may need, or family member, or a pet. We recommend that you keep that in there. Blankets, all of your pet supplies, and we covered that a few weeks ago. But make sure that you keep those in. Blankets, we personally keep them in our cars. I remember when I lived in a much colder climate, I always had like a sleeping bag in my car and some snacks and some things like that. So depending on where you may visit or where you go, you might want to scale that up or down to make sure that you're going to be safe. The neighborhood map and local resources, you're going to have to print some of these things out. Don't rely on the internet. Don't rely on your phone or a computer. Make sure you have enough food and water. That's a tricky one. And I'll say, like, you can buy these food packets, and some of them are ready-made meals. Some of them might require you to prep them. In fact, how about this? In the chat, if you've if you were in the military or if you're a hiker, if you've ever had a good, I guess, recipe, list your favorite one in there. I'll tell you this, when I was in the Air Force, I was in survival school, and they sent us out in the field for about 3 days. I was in the Air Force, so it wasn't that big of a deal, but 3 days, and they gave us one MRE, and mine happened to be the spaghetti with meatballs and 2 granola bars, and that's what I got for the nearly 3 days. It was plenty of food. It's amazing what you can live on. And I'll be honest with you, the MRE that I had, the meal ready to eat, was well over about 15 or 20 years old, and it was delicious. So I had no problem eating it, but recommend that you keep food that lasts for a long time. You can buy certain packages. You can buy your favorite food off the shelf if it's got a long shelf life. A lot of these foods that are designed for the rainy day, so to speak, they usually have 10, 15 year, maybe even 20-year shelf life. So that's why we recommend that, is because you can leave it in your car, you can leave it in your go bag for several seasons before you have to do anything with it, and it'll all be good. All right, and let's go back to the list real quick. Put that back up. So water, we recommend you can keep cases of water. You can also use large storage containers for your water. In my house, we've got cases of water that we stack up, and then we go through them as we needed, so that we do get some rotation out of it. And then I also have these kind of large water jugs that I use, and we just fill a bunch of those up, and then they're there, and then we just rotate them throughout the year. That way we're not wasting the water, throwing it out. We're actually drinking that water, but we're refurbishing it throughout the year. A whistle, first aid kit, important documents, flashlight, extra batteries. Let's look at some of the documents. And this is actually getting easier and easier. If you think about housing, title, lease, rental agreement, insurance policy, personal items for everybody in the house, birth certificates, passports, driver's license, residence card, social security. If you're we're in the military rather, DD 214, and then your will or trust documents, health insurance information, mask and medications, your auto papers, and then photographs of household belongings. Most all of this stuff, I would be willing to bet most people watching the show right now already have it in digital format somewhere. And that's okay. Just, I would say, keep it somewhere where it is safe and secure, so that someone can't get it and use it, but that where you need it, or you have it where you need it, if you need it in an emergency. So however you need to keep that. I personally don't keep them in paper copy. I don't want to have to worry about managing or handling those. We keep them in a secure location. All right, before I move on to the question, I want to cover some of the questions here. It looks like there's something coming in, so I want to. Sue is asking if we had found the person who stole the SUV, and we have not found him yet. They left it there, and we. You say you're the one that told him, so good job. Okay, so Tom Valdez says, what time will the bike to work booth be manned in the Lunardi's parking lot this Friday? It should be from about 7 to about 10. So we're trying to hit the commute hours. So we'll be down there during that time. And then Sue continues with to call the police earlier. And so Sue had a good inkling that this was not a car that should be there. So again, Sue is the expert in the neighborhood where she happened to be at, and so she can see things that are out of place. I, as a cop, might drive by there not having ever been in the neighborhood, or rarely gone through the neighborhood, or only gone through it a few times, and I might not notice the same thing that someone that leaves and comes home from that neighborhood several times throughout the day. So Sue, good observation and good job. All right, so I'm very happy to have gotten this email. So I got this one from Andrea. She was one of the students, or participants rather, in our Citizens Academy. And we're in this emergency prep week. And I'm not going to read the whole email, but her email, and this was really good because her email says, would you be able to discuss on your weekly show what is being done to prepare for nuclear fallout and associated disruption? And to some people, that may seem like a strange question, like a low probability question. And I'm not here to say that it's a high probability question, but it is something that we should talk about. And the reason I think that it was a wonderful question and a well-timed question is this is something that your government has already been planning for a long time. And it doesn't mean that we've got these spaces carved out these secret locations where everybody's going to go. It means that we have, and when I say we, I mean FEMA, that we have established these checklists and guidelines on what you can do to best prepare in case any kind of a hazard. And our friends over at FEMA actually have what they call all hazards handouts. And so if you look, I happen to print these out, and they're pretty easy to use. And the first one, it goes in alphabetical order, is active shooter. Talks about avalanche, cyber attack. And it's interesting that, Andrea, that nuclear explosion is in this checklist. And I know it's alphabetical, but it's really weird. It comes right after Novel pandemic. Okay. So after Novel pandemic comes the checklist portion on nuclear explosion. And this is something that I would recommend. Just print the checklist out, stuff it in a drawer. And so should something happen, you know that you can have a checklist that if something hazardous happens, if we get wildfire, if we get something, you're going to have something that you can put your fingers on and react and prepare. So our FEMA does have this on their website on beready.gov. You can go to beready.gov and all of these checklists will be there. And usually what you'll see is you'll see the type of incident. In this case, this is what was requested, was how do we prepare if there's a nuclear type event? And the checklists are all organized the same. And what you'll see is you'll see an identification and immediate action that they want you to take. And I'm not putting this slide up here for you to read, but just to see that these are easy checklists that if you have them in your hand, they're quick action items that you can take to keep you and your family safe. And then they're going to be a section on how to stay safe. And the great thing about how the way they've organized all of these checklists is they're going to have what can you do now to prepare. And this is the one we should spend we hope to spend the most of our time on, and not the other two, but this is where we want to put a little bit of time in up front so that we're ready. And then if something does happen, what should you do during the event? And then after any of these events, what can you do to make sure that you are and your family are as safe as you can possibly be? So that is our checklist. You can go to beready.gov and you can get these. There is a link in the description. There's not too many of them, and a lot of them follow the same pattern. So I would just say go and check those out, download them, and print them out if you can, and just take a look at them, stuff them in a drawer, and then frankly, let's get on with life and enjoy the good weather that we're having and our downtown restaurants and all the fun stuff. All right. Again, if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. I'm going to go on to our second question, which ties right into our final thought. So our final thought is going to be on speeding. And I know we've been talking about speeding a lot. We've been talking about bad driving and behavior, but please understand this. We are increasing the level of traffic enforcement. When we talk about how to reduce traffic accidents, how to keep traffic and motoring public safe, we usually talk about the 3 E's of traffic enforcement or traffic safety. And it's enforcement, that's the police. It's engineering, that's Andy Dillard, and he's the one that helps to design the roads. And then it's engineering, enforcement, and education. Education is what we're doing right now. It's what you see us doing out at the schools as well. So here is the question, and I'm gonna leave all the roads in here because I think it's important for you to know that when we receive a complaint, even though you just saw on the map, we don't have accidents on this road, but this is a complaint from a citizen who's telling us, I see bad driving in this area, and I think it's predictive of an accident waiting to happen. So we will take this information and this street that she's listing, and we will go out there and we will do some enforcement. So it says, hi, Nicola. I'm curious to know if you would be willing to ask the police department about ways to handle handle traffic in our area and start a discussion for our concerned residents. Specifically, how to react when we drive at the speed limit on a 2-lane road and have a driver on our tail expressing anxiety by attempting to pass on unsafe curves and trying to pass on the right. This happens on El Capitan almost daily. I'd love to see more police presence on El Capitan. Thank you. And I'll omit her name since I have not spoken to her since this, and I don't want to put her name out there. So I will say this, that we will have an increased presence out at El Capitan, and we'll have it in a couple of different ways. The first one is we will have traffic officers that are out there, and we will have what we call the beat officer, the officer with responsibility. And they will work specifically for the bad driving that you are witnessing, and that's speeding, following too close, and unsafe turning or lane change driving movements. In addition to that, we've got a good host of volunteers, and they come in every day and they go to our supervisors and our sergeants and they say, hey, what would you like us to do? And when we're getting a lot of thefts in our parking lots, we're like, hey, go burn holes in those parking lots. In cases like this, we're like, hey, look, we're having trouble at El Capitan. And we've done a couple of different tactics that help to calm and slow traffic down. The first one, just drive up and down the street. The second one is we actually have them with a radar gun, and we'll have them clock the speeds of the cars that are going by, document them so that we can see whether or not it's a problem. We're also working, and this is something that we do have a program for, with those radar signs. So we've got fixed and stationary ones, and then we have those radar trailers that you see around town. Well, we're actually working on getting some, instead of the radar trailers, we're actually going to get some that we can move, but they're going to be mounted on posts. And that way we hope that we can circulate them a little bit more and get them out there. Bottom line from an enforcement standpoint is we will be out there and we will be doing enforcement. And enforcement can look like an officer driving up and down the road. It can be a volunteer going up and down the road. It can be an officer stopping cars and giving warnings, and it can be an officer giving citations to correct the behavior. Please understand the goal of traffic enforcement is to change behavior. It's not a revenue generator. We don't go out and just pump out tickets just because we do it because we need to change behavior, like that was listed in this article. The second part of this is what should you as the driver do if you encounter this situation? So if you are driving down the road and someone is driving up close to you, or you think that they're driving in such a manner that they create a hazard, we would recommend reporting it to us, but doing it in a safe way. So we recommend pulling off to the side of the road, calling us on the phone, providing a description and a plate if you can for the vehicle that was doing that. And the reason is, if we can get the plate for the vehicle, oftentimes, and we've done this many times in the past, we will call the registered owner and let him know of the complaint. And a lot of times, and I'll say this is the strength of living in such a good community, is a lot of times I've seen it where it has been a child, a teen driver, and we get the call and they say, hey, it's this type of car and this is the plate. And we look up and we call mom and dad and we're like, hey, mom and dad, it looks like maybe your son or daughter was in the car and they were driving reckless as it was reported to us. Can you do the parent thing? And they take good action. And we've got very responsible parents. We have very good kids in the community. So if you can help us, we'll take care of that. And certainly we'll make sure that we monitor that on an enforcement side. But we have been on an increase in our ticket writing over the last several months. And I expect that to continue to go up until our traffic speeds and the accidents start to drive south. The other thing is what you asked about starting a conversation in this email. Like, how do we start a conversation and how do we get that going? If you feel that there is an engineering solution that might be overlooked, in other words, striping, signage, those sort of things, if there's something we can do there, we actually have two options right now. The first one is that roadway safety plan that I mentioned at the beginning of the show, and I'll throw a slide up here again. Actually, I'll just go right to it. We've got this local roadway safety plan. You can pin it there, and you can tell us what the problem is as you see it and how often it is. And that's something that can be addressed through our roadway safety plan. The other is we receive money through grants each year to run a neighborhood traffic management plan. And this is designed to provide traffic calming measures in areas where it's needed. I will say this, though. We have an incredibly low number of traffic accidents. This year, I had one of my traffic officers come to me and ask if he could put in for a grant for a technical piece of equipment that's used in investigating collisions. And when we put it into the Office of Traffic Safety, we were actually declined. We were rejected because we have too few accidents, because that's one of the first questions they ask. They're like, give us your accident rate. We find that we have, comparative to other areas, we have very, very low accidents. And that is not a function or a product, rather, of the police department. That really is all of you and Andy Dillard, our transportation manager. If you look at old pictures from Danville, the roadway designs and the layouts, the signs, the stripings, the lights, all of that is completely different. And he works very, very hard with his team to make it better for all of you. So that is what you can do. So if you're really interested and you believe that you have an area, we do have a couple of NTMPs going right now, and they are working on those. But so there are ways that you can engage and have a conversation about that. But as far as this specific event, I will make sure that we get traffic officers and beat officers out there to do very specific traffic enforcement for what the person was telling us, the speeding, the following too close, and the poor driving. All right, I'm going to check the chat. See the speeds. Okay, Gary, awesome. So the speeds on westbound Camino Taos as vehicles head towards 680 in the morning, just went up, 6 a.m. in the morning. I'm sorry, the chat just moved up on me. Are concerning. I think you'll be amazed at the speeds and how many exceed 55 miles per hour. So Gary, that is one of the reasons we're interested in getting these new signs that we could put up on the road. What they will do is they will actually allow us to count traffic and speeds. And so we'll actually be able to generate reports and see where traffic is lying. And what it'll allow us to do is take our traffic enforcement and better hone them into exactly what 10-minute period, what 20, what 30-minute period. I know you're saying 6 o'clock, and I bet if I sat out there at 6 o'clock, I'm sure we would see exactly what you're saying. So I appreciate that. These will be just one more tool that we can use to gauge those speeds and when they're happening. So Gary, thanks. That's a good one. Celeste. Okay, so she's reaffirming Gary's question, basically saying that she saw someone exhibit poor driving and run a light on Camino Tassajara the other day. Okay, and then she says, could not catch up and get the license plate number. It wasn't worth it. Thank you. I think that you summed up exactly what we ask you to do. We give these presentations all the time in person about what should you do in a variety of situations, and we always fall back on please be a good witness. Don't put yourself in danger. Certainly don't create danger. And so I love the way you wrote that last part that, tried to catch up. So we're not speeding. We're just seeing if we can see them. But you felt that it was too dangerous and it wasn't appropriate for you to drive it away that would allow you to get a license plate. So getting that license plate is not worth creating an environment where you're going to get an accident or cause an accident for someone else. So great job. I love the way you wrote that. Corner of Railroad and San Ramon Valley Boulevard. Traffic lights are there, but people run the lights all the time. Okay, we'll note that one too. And then apparently everybody loves Gary. Good job. Gary, you seem to sum it up right. And what I'll do is I'll let our graveyard team, who actually would cover the streets during that time, know about that, and we'll make sure that we get someone out there. All right, let's see. So there's still cover the ways to engage. We've got our bike to work day, Friday, May 20th. That's going to be in the morning hours, so that's going to be from about 7 to 10. You can join us out there. And if you don't catch us there, you're not a bike to work kind of person, come join us at Coffee with the Cops on Friday the 20th from 10 to 12. And it's going to be at the Safeway in Camino Tassajara, and you can come join us as we help support Special Olympics. So a lot of gratitude to Safeway for hosting us, but we're going to be out there and support Special Olympics. So if you've got some spare time, please come and help us out. The money that you donate, it all goes to Special Olympics, and it goes so that our athletes can compete in the games and get wellness checks. Very good program. And frankly, if you want to come and join it, it's going to be in Santa Clara this year towards the end of June. That's going to be our Northern California games. They are awesome to watch. If you've got little kids and you want to volunteer, there's lots of ways of volunteering. Just go to the Special Olympics site. All right, it looks like that is all we have. We are 10:10, but we're always 10:8 in service to all of you. Have a good night, Danville.